give them something to do, which would be Florida, that's a lot of people there, California, JSC, so you put some of their main places there. You see, this turned into Johnson Space. Can anybody guess when that happened? So who was the guy after Kennedy that took office? What's the first thing he does? This one is named after who? This is the next guy, and this one's named after I don't know what that was named after. Right now? So I'll take a little banter if you want, so I'm not opposed to that, but if we do too much banter with the audience, then we're never gonna get done. So they moved it all around, there's facilities. One of the most interesting things I found, and there's lots of interesting things, when I was tearing apart the Launch Control Center, and I'll show you that in a little bit, I found a little tag on there, and it said made in Washington State Prison. Oh. So they went into a prison and said, look guys, we need a bunch of cables made, we'll pay you like $1 an hour or something, and you get to make stuff for the program. And they jumped in, they locked in too. It's like, yeah, we've been bad people, we know we've been bad people, let's do something good. And it is actually probably better than just sitting around and drinking or something. No? All right, so they chose here for Kennedy Space Center for a few reasons. Maybe I have them on here, I don't know. Yeah, so here's the blow up. This is actually where my house is, right here someplace, right behind that O. So this is the Space Center. This is a huge swamp. I think I might have mentioned this, but it's, there's a lot of ocean out here, so we don't have to drop rocket pieces on things. And so that's nice, right? Especially if you're one of the people in a cruise ship going by. They'll tell you don't come by here. At Vandenberg, there's a train that actually goes through the base, and if they're going to launch, one of them has to decide to stop. And so usually the train will stop, and everybody watches it from the windows because it's very cool. And then it goes by, but it goes by with like a quarter mile of the pad, so you really can't do that. And this is where the launch pads are, and there's launch pads all up here. And this, anybody know what this is? This is where your next cruise is going to be from, so just come by my house, I'll pick you up at the airport, you can stay with me, and I'll charge you like $300. My friends fly in, and I'm like, oh, come get me. So we give them a car, and no, they don't get to keep it. Okay, so this is closer to the equator. The Earth is spinning 1,000 miles an hour, so the closer you get to the equator, if you launch that way, you get 1,000 miles an hour. If you launch the other way, you lose 1,000 miles an hour. If you launch from the North Pole or Vandenberg, you're going polar, you get nothing. So you don't get any speed there at all. Let's see, lots of water, downrange, big space, swamp. Nobody lives out here unless you're an alligator, which I'll show you in a minute. This is the day, the heyday. These were all launch pads. Somewhere here's launch pad 34, which is where the Apollo 1 crew was testing when their accident happened. But all of these have come down now, and SpaceX and Blue Origin has some of these. Back over here, way over here is the VAB. This is actually for the Titan program that's no longer there. This is actually gone. They actually came in and took the building down. And I'm like, holy cow, like the size of the VAB. All right, so this is called the Launch Complex 39 area. So this is the VAB right here.
What's VAB?
Oh, I don't remember. Okay, you can do it two ways. Vehicle assembly building or vertically assembly building. Vehicle assembly building is correct, but we take either answer. So I'll try and yell it out, and I'll probably not know what it is. This is the LCC. Okay, it's the Launch Control Center. This is an interactive thing. I'm taking you back to Kennedy Space Center, which is a long way away, and we need that time machine thing going here. So if we don't have enough energy to get back, then we're going to be in Florida for lunch. I'll take you out to Dixie Crossroads. And then we got the crawlerway that comes down here. This is pad B, this is pad A. Right now, Elon Musk has this one, that other company with X, and this is NASA's. Interesting, didn't know this till I started reading it. Of all the Apollo missions, they only launched one from pad B. All the others went from pad A. You still have to have two pads in case something happens and you don't have a pad anymore. You can launch again, but they just preferred to use this one because I think it's closer for the crawler. That's already a 5-hour trip. And this is where the external tank comes in. They bring it down on a barge right here, and then they offload it here. And this is where all the public for people sit and watch. And this is where I wasn't standing when I didn't watch the launch on the roof of the LCC, so I don't get in trouble. Because I won't deny that if you ask me. All right, so great partnership between a wildlife refuge and Kennedy Space Center. And I'm going to talk about sea turtles. So does anybody have the sea turtle thing? All right, so great. This is actually on the north side of the Space Center. Is that right, north side? And they have a nice shop there and a nice place, and there's lots of trails and stuff. So if you ever want to drive all the way around from here, You know, all the way down here, all the way back up here, and all the way down here, and back out here. It's right over here. That's the runway that they land on. We're going to land there in a minute. All right, so we have lots of animals out there, turkey vultures, big giant turtles the size of cars. This guy here walking across the runway, he's like, really, I took that on my motorcycle. I did not stop, by the way. And I have seen bobcats. So here's our bobcat on the dock. And these turkeys check for badges when people come in. And then we've got this guy who would love for you to come out and play with it. He's always looking for something to play with. And we don't have many people. I think there was one time where some people kind of hid out of the swamp to watch the launch or something. After about 2 days of that, they're like, we've been eaten by mosquitoes, and we keep hearing alligators at night, so I think we're going to not be there. But this is a pretty big boy here. But I went around one lake out there, 56 alligators out sunning. It was that time of year when they get a little frisky, but they like to be out in the sun during that, so that, you know, the ladies come back. Here's our giant turtle again, and I don't know what he did, but I did catch one in our air conditioning system in our building, and he was not happy. We let him in there because he had 3 little ones, and they were just walking around, and you could pick them there, but he was not happy. Now they just relocate him, so hopefully Mr. Alligator doesn't find him. And we've got some rosy spoonbills and egrets out there. These are always fun. There's lots of birding people that come out there, and we have some sea turtles. I'm trying to take away from the other guy, but so there's like 30 miles of beaches that you know just has like little pieces of rocket land on it and stuff. They pick all those up. But they come out there and they nest and they put wire over the top of them to keep the animals from getting. They put a stake there. And if you go around Marchish time when they're doing this, and you have to go ahead, he probably told you all this, but you can get a pass to go out there and they will wait until one starts laying eggs and you can come out and watch them lay eggs. Bring some bug spray because you can almost get carried off by the mosquitoes. So there's lots of sea turtles out there and they really like that. And again, a good program. And they like to watch the launches too. So. And I don't know how big the fish was, but it was pretty big. And then we've got the air patrol out there. Shamelessly, I'm driving to work one day and I see, you know, like an extra large vulture on the side. It's not a vulture. They're not, food is food, right? You know, so they're eating this. And I as I drive up, flies over my car. But there's nests, big nests you go by and see, and you can see those every day. And there was one where I saw the turkeys go by. So Mama Turkey was running with her 14 little kids, and the next day I came by with her 13 kids, and 2 weeks later there's 10, and I don't think any of those turkeys made it, so these are kind of common. Oh, and we have some otters, otternauts. So. All right, I'm going to take my last where I can get them, okay? All right, let's get back to something a little more serious, not quite too serious, but this is the shuttle landing way, and that's just to get the water off the runway. I pointed it out earlier. The contractor realized that he was in about 15 feet of having the longest runway in the world, so he added 15 feet on his own dime just to make it longer. That's probably what this is right here, and make it the longest runway. I don't know if it is anymore, but it lands at 240 miles an hour, so if you got that kind of a long runway, there's no fly around for it. It doesn't have any engines. And so that's where the families and the team, I've gone out here to watch them sat in the bleachers where it comes by, and I'll show you, and it's quiet. No engines, and you hear the wheels hit and parachute come out. You'll hear that in a second. This is where they pick the orbiter up and put it on the back of the 747, and you'll see one of those fly by a minute ago. And this is where they brought in Challenger, Columbia, and put it back together in that room. So that's a little bit of history there. All right, so let's watch one minute.
Shuttle's nose for landing, and as you can see, the main gear are in place. Main gear touchdown. Pilot Barry Wilmore deploying the drag chute. Nose gear touchdown. Land is now rolling out on runway 33 at Kennedy Space Center, wrapping up a 4,490,138-mile flight to the International Space Station.
I'm pretty sure they did the parachute just because it looks cool. They want all the margin they could get, you know, because if you run off the runway, there's swamp and alligators. But when you stand out there, when it's done, it's sitting there. And if you hang around for a little bit, you know, eventually all these trucks show up and they go around and sniff for spooky stuff. They shouldn't be out there. And then they'll get out and they'll walk, the commander will always walk around his vehicle, see what kind of damage, and check it out. And so it's really cool to watch them come out. But they all kind of walk around it, you know, depending on how long they've been to orbit. You know, if you've been up there a long time, you probably don't do a lot of walking. Not too crazy muscles. All right, so what are we going to talk about next? Oh, we got this big thing carrying it. So if they land in California, they got to get it back somehow, and they were built in California, so they have to bring it back on. So they made this special shuttle. Interestingly, or not to me, if not anybody else, it actually carries about 60% of its own weight when it's flying, because it's a plane, it picks itself up. But can you imagine flying? It probably flies like a duck, you know, a huge, big, fat duck, you know, bouncing around. So they don't really actually go really high when they fly back, because it's really fun for them to drive down the beach and watch that come in. So for some reason the pilot has a hard time because he just took off from this runway, so he's lost and he's circling back around. But they like to fly down the beaches and the rivers, so it is amazing to watch it go over. So they really like to show it off. But that's Discovery going off to the museum in near Dulles in Virginia. And this is it. I took this picture. I did take this picture. That's actually not a lie. Sometimes I cheat, and I tell you I took it anyway. I never did that. Here's where the crew goes in, the access door. You can see kind of burnt around here. This is Discovery. That's the arm in the back and the payload bay doors. And so you can go there and you can walk. I went into the OPF, I probably told the story the other day, the first time, and I was like, where's the orbiter? Where's the orbiter? Where's the orbiter? I was like, what do you mean where the orbiter is? It's right there. I'm like, where? And you look up and the whole bottom is there. It looks like the ceiling, like this massive vehicle here underneath. It's quite huge in person. So I was shocked. And then I got to go on the next floor and actually see inside it. So we're going to jump back and we're going to start talking about some of the buildings. Realize between 1962 and 63, 65, 66, 67, they built everything. At this point, like I talked about earlier in the mission, they only had one successful real flight with Alan Shepard for 15 minutes up and down. That was it on a really small rocket, and they had none of that. And so in 1962, now we're going to go to the moon in less than 10 years, 8 years. That's a big leap. So they had to build everything. This is the VAB going on. This is what my father-in-law, I've got a picture of him somewhere, like standing on top of one of these beams with no tether or anything. But they had to come in here. This is all filled from the swamp, so you can't build on that. So they had all these pylons that they drove down, I-beams, 150, 200 feet in the ground, thousands of them. And then they poured the concrete on the I-beams, and it became the largest battery in the world, because you got salt water, you got steel, and they found out, oh, this thing actually generates voltage. You know? So that's how they power the whole Space Center. That's not true. They went in and they ground them all together because they don't want that. They don't want, for some reason, they don't want voltage coming out of the ground. So they're building everything all at one time. This is the building, my wife's gonna yell at me. This is the building I managed, and this is one that Jason, my buddy, managed. This one, this is mine. This is his. Much bigger than mine. So I liked mine just fine. So I got lost in here one time. I'll tell you the story about getting stuck in the bathroom, maybe if I can remember it. So there's my father, future father-in-law, back in the day. He was kind of a manly man, welder, steel worker. And that's me trying to get to the roof, which you can't actually go on the roof from the elevator shaft. You come down, but not up. I'm kind of lost. But there's 4 high bays where they can build up 4 different payloads at the same time. They only end up using really 3 of them, and the other one's kind of for staging. And then at each, the roof is like 8 acres. Now it's really a 1-story building, but they have towers and there's floors in each towers, and they used to be office spaces, but when they came into the shuttle program, they're solids and they're explosive, and they had to move everybody out. And so let's see what else we got. There's a flag on the side of the building which you can talk about. And I talked to my father-in-law, and he said they worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for basically 4 years building this thing, and only 1 fatality. I asked somebody what an actuary guy, and he said, oh, 200 people? And he said, no, 1. And he was talking on the phone, and he did what I'm probably about likely to do, he just turned around and walked off. But it was a kind of a forgetful mistake, but there have been other people at the Space Center that I think one guy got hit by a tour bus, so watch out for the tours. Is Oscar Simpson. This is the roof area, so it's huge and it's really cool. They won't let you get too close to the side, but if you're standing out here, The turkey vultures just hang right off the currents. They just sit there and go back and forth. This is the star. It's supposed to be about 6 feet. That's somebody that's about 6 feet tall and about 200 pounds heavier. Yeah. So I don't know where Joe, they found, if you walk around there, you find all kinds of strange things. So Joe was late for work one day. I had to go look for him. We thought it was a funny joke, but Joe did not think it was funny. That's a fire test dummy. So it's like up in the 20th floor, and they have to go find him, and they have to carry him down the stairs, and they just practice doing fire stuff. So Joe doesn't mind. But it is kind of odd when you walk into a room, you think, oh, what's this? But so to just drag a short story longer, I was doing an inspection for looking at the bathrooms of a real building, and I went in one on like one of the towers that nobody gets in, and it was dark, so I turned on my phone and was looking around, and I realized there was no handle on the door, it was flush. So here I am 23 floors up in a tower that nobody goes into, figuring out how am I going to get out. Luckily there was water running where the toilet used to be, so I got some water. But anyway, I took one of my keys out and stuck it in a little hole and got the door to come open and got out, and then I promptly went back and chewed out the facility manager, who probably did something about it, I don't know. So this flag here is huge on the side. They say you can drive a bus on one of these, maybe down. I don't know how you get it up on the roof. The elevator's too small, but maybe it's some kind of Spider-Man bus or something. So this is Gibas, he's the first center director, and this beam is right up there. So you take an elevator up, and then you have to take a small elevator to get on the roof. But this beam is up there, and it's signed. I think downstairs for the end of the program, they signed a big wall. I think my signature's on there somewhere. So apparently they did this thing back then too. That's a lot of that. This is what happened after one of the hurricanes. Yes, we get hurricane damage. So this is kind of how it all works. So you've got things are being checked out in other buildings. They come in this low bay, they bring them in here, they check them out, make sure they work. They do testing. All the testing is done in my little building over here. There's 4 control rooms in there, and they test. And then after it gets done and it's all working, then they bring it in here and they stack it on a mobile launch platform. And this is the one that I said was never used, but it actually is in this picture. But there's one here, 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 and here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so they pick it up and they put it on the stand, and then they roll it out with a crawler over here, and they take it out. All the testing is done here, so that's kind of how that works. You can kind of see vertical. It is, you can see from the bottom to the top. So this is actually a Saturn V being picked up. The guys that pick this up, I think I say in the next slide that they get to fly it first, or nobody goes. So you can see all the way up to the top. Now this is actually a separate picture. Well, these are some of the largest doors in the world, and weather comes in here. So it's, it might even rain in there, clouds form there. It's so huge, so they actually have to manage that with the way the doors. But to get this on this stack, it has to turn sideways because this is metal, and it won't fit through there. So they have to turn it sideways to slide it through and then turn it back around. So this is the SLS being stacked, and so you'll kind of get an idea of how it works when they pick it up. So this is real time, by the way. People actually work that fast. Now this thing moves along very, very slowly, and I don't think you want to stay here for an hour watching this. It literally takes all day to do this. These are the solids for the SLS program. They added one more segment in. I think they're pushing around 3.5 million pounds of thrust each. These are RS-25 engines, about 500,000 pounds each. So that's 2 million pounds of thrust. This is about 7 or 8 million pounds of thrust. When they light these, it goes. No matter what, it goes. If the bolts are still in, it goes. So kind of fun. Now, if you're not badged, you can go into one of the other high bay cells and go up and watch across them and do it. And I was badged, so I can go and watch it. So this is what it looks like for shuttle, or this is probably still SLS. But you can see platforms come over, and they have to go all the way to the top and then back down to get in there. So we've got the Apollo program, shuttle program, and the Artemis program. And these guys, like I said earlier, they said nobody flies until we fly. So they pick it up first. So they have t-shirts made. So we're going to go up an elevator, and they made a glass one. Well, how cool. Lots of buttons. Thanks, Mike. So you can see some of the cross platforms out the window. It's fun to go. If you go over there, you always go up this one. So that's a ride from the bottom all the way to the top as far as you can go. Like I said, to get on the roof, you have to take a little smaller elevator. Somebody needs to dust a little bit, I think. Not me. So we're going to move over to the building that I manage. This is the Launch Control Center, and they're in the process of replacing the windows. And for a picture, tell me why the louvers are on the windows. Another runner guy? Jet blast? What else you got? Who's the other answer? What is it for?
Hurricanes.
I didn't hear.
Hurricanes.
Hurricanes? Close? It's much simpler than that.
Glare.
Weather?
Glare.
Shade. I'm going to take shade over here, sorry. It's to keep the glare off of the consoles. Because they didn't have UV protection back in that day, so that's actually Mars. So, no, actually that's not Mars. Turn it around, let me actually see what it is. It's actually Venus. It's a picture from Venus. So yeah, you're now gone to Venus and back. But they put these on there to try and turn them so the glare wouldn't go through. And by the way, it's still fine if you say for blast, but they're 3 miles away. The rocket's not getting there. But they came back with UV protection, so they don't need that anymore. And this, I have a piece of the window that they cut out of here that they can chop it all up and give us. So I didn't bring that with me. So this is one of my projects after the shuttle program was over and the Apollo program. They decided, hey, we can't just leave all this stuff in here. We got to get rid of all this cable. And so we started a big project to remove cable, like millions of dollars worth of cable we had to pull out of there. So this is, hey, it's getting a little better. These are all the missions that they flew out of the specific room in the back. And it's all nice and clean. And they sealed it all, and you could eat off that floor, which I did not try. And I got some new raised flooring put back in, and these are pallets of cable, and we over 100 of these we pulled out of there. And you know, you're going along cutting cable, and then somebody calls you on the phone and said, did you just do something? Like, well, we cut a cable, you know, 200 pair of cable like that. We needed that one, so we spent all day putting 200 pieces of wire back together. So I can't remember his name. So the launch director said we want to see what the consoles look like, and they were going to spend $1 million to go out and have some made. And I said, I'll have you one tomorrow. So I went home in my shop and I made some consoles for them. These are very high-class, expensive monitors, and these laptops here are very expensive. I did use some real keyboards, but yeah. And then this is actually what it looked like when they finished it. So you can see pretty much held to the design. They put an extra table in there, so yeah. And so now we're going to jump into the different rooms and how they're used. So this is the Apollo program. Apparently this is getting like close to the 70s because people actually have color. There's a few people with colored shirts. As I saw the other day, I think the requirement at the time was to have a black and white t-shirt. You know? So this is the shuttle program. They face to the front. Everybody's facing the front. I know these guys. I work with these guys. I did a similar job on the ELV side, not manned, unmanned program, but I work with them. ELV, expendable launch vehicles, thank you very much, and I'm happy I remembered that, so. Picture?
Oh.
Picture, that's a sticker question. You got tons of pictures. I see him at breakfast, he gets one every day. Who has like 10 little stickers? 5? Yeah, I've been giving those out like candy. It's a shameless promotion, what the heck. And then we've got, let's see, we can't do the same thing as everybody else, so now they face both directions. But this is one of the control rooms that I helped build, and these are all the missions that they've flown out of Firing Room 1. This is the launch director team up here, and these are all the minions. I'm one of these minions every now and then. All right, so they have the same, so we at Kennedy Space Center do ground processing and launch. Once it launches and it clears, you'll hear a call, tower clear. That means it now transfers to JSC. So that they can do something. And this is in monitoring either. Where's my space station person? This is for the orbiter, but they have one like this just for space station as well. And they had one for the Apollo program, which I might pull that picture out. This is Charlie Blackwell Thompson. She's the launch director. She said, I want this, and I was one of the guys that made it happen. I'm like, yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. So this is her. And this is actually rolling out. This is Artemis, and she's like, amazing, we actually get to move this thing out to the pad. This is, anybody know this name? Who? Who is he? It says it right here. Okay, let's see here. She was the first one to answer, so I don't know if you answered correctly or not. It doesn't really matter. So I take wrong answers as well as good answers. This is a Delta II rocket, so not a very good picture. Yeah, so they lease the facility to people making movies, and they're doing Sharknado 3, I think, and I'm actually in it. If you look for a guy in a yellow shirt, well, you'd have to be like really quick. But I've been there like really quick 3 times. So let me show the VAB. This is a group called Mercy Me. They came through. I had them singing in the elevator. Has anybody heard of this group? One of their songs is You Can Only Imagine. So I'm sitting there with him, and he's saying, hey, what's it like on launch day? Like, you can only imagine. And he's like, how long have you been baiting me for that? And I'm like, a half an hour. I never did tell him what it was like. Maybe it's a lot like heaven. So. But they come through. I've had people come through, and they're like, they've got all their little minions around them. I'm like, I don't even know who you are. So I'm an engineer. I don't have time for anything else. So these are posters that they're whiteboards, and when they started at some point in the shuttle program to give out these whiteboards for the crew's families to draw on and just kind of doodle away, because it's like hours and hours of sitting there. And I was giving a tour through there one time, and because I have access, I had to take them up to the 4th floor to show them this. And the one girl went up and put her hand on the board, and I said, please don't put your hand on the board. And she said, it's my hand. I'm like, I know, get your hand off the board. And she said, no, it's my hand. And being an engineer, I finally actually listened to her. It was her hand. There was a tracing of her hand. Her grandfather was an astronaut. I'm like, hey, what'd you do today, Dad? Well, I just got back from orbit, you know. But she can touch it if she wants. So this is the one for Colombia, and it's up there. We don't show it off. We moved it from the lobby because we didn't want to make a big deal about it. But it's up there, you can see there's Raymond and the family are all over it. And right around the corner here, backstage, well, down the hallway in the LCC, back there is the picture of the crew. So it's when I take people up there, it's a little bit somber. And so they decided that when Neil Armstrong, and I did get to meet him, when he passed, that they would rename a bunch of things after him. And so they renamed the ONC building the Armstrong Operations and Checkout Building, and these are some of the people in attendance. This is Charlie Bolden, the NASA administrator, Michael Collins, here's the man who haircuts are named after, Buzz Aldrin, Jim Lovell, and then Cabana, the center director. All of them astronauts, shuttle, Apollo. So he didn't get to land on the moon, and I did meet him, but I didn't realize the gravity of the situation when I met him. So that was a close-up of him. So this is inside the ONC building. Am I running out of time yet? This is inside the ONC building. This is in Gavra. This is for Apollo 15. This is the support module, and this is the command module that they sit in. And this is the Falcon, is that right? Falcon, yeah, Falcon. And it's got its legs all tucked in, and it's going to be going into 3rd stage, and the panels are back here that they're going to stick around it to cover it up. And these are real size people.
What are all the red tags?
What are all the red tags? So these red tags, and they do this on every launch, there's remove before flight. You know, if you don't pull this out, it's not going to work. And oddly enough, a lot of them are plugged into something called safe in arms. So when this thing is in, it can't ignite and blow. It's an explosive, so it can't blow the rocket up. So you're free to test, and you can test everything. So when they pull these out, they have a guy on camera that comes up and he holds each one up, and each one's got a number. And they say, okay, yeah, we've got them all out. That way they can make sure and review before they launch. Yes, we pulled out all the red tags. And one of these guys goes up on top of one of the solids for the SRBs, and he has to go inside there and test the igniter and make sure it works. Put too much current in there, boom. Put just enough current in there, and they call it tickling it. And so he does that a bunch of times on the vehicle, because a lot of these are pyros. You get these legs come down, they blow a little pyro, and it opens the leg.
That was a good question, right?
Yes, we need a sticker. Where's my sticker monster? It was a
He
good
wants
question. Now, the way you get the photos, I ask a question and answer it. The way you get a sticker is you ask a question. So you can find him a sticker in there. All right, well, keep up the banter here, because I like that. And you know, I can only get thrown off the ship once. I hope. So this is inside, a few years later. This is now the shuttle program, and this is the program that I worked on called Space Lab. And so this is the Space Lab. We are in there putting all the instruments in these racks, and this is where the high rate multiplexer is, which is how all the data gets down. That was my job to make sure that worked. Okay, let's just make believe one of these is me. I don't know or not, but it could be, because that's where it is, and that's what they're working on. And then they take all of this, pick it up, take it down here, and slide it in the can, and then they put nice little blankets all over it, make it nice and pretty, and that's actually a window. This is if they do a pallet mission. So they put the stuff on there, but it's not, it's open, I want to say open air mission, open space. You know, there's no, it's not inside a vacuum. This is it going in the back of the shuttle bay, and this is the tunnel, this is the mid deck and the flight deck back here, and they come through this tunnel and they come all the way down here and work. I've gotten woken up in the middle of the night, and so, it's not me this time, but I have done this, gone out there and sat there. It's pretty cool, unless you're woke up at 2 a.m., which is what was my case. Let's see, yeah, that's enough. So this is, they got a spacesuit that they took from Armstrong in the building after they named it after him. One, it's kind of like, for Where's Waldo? One piece on here I think he wore sometime, but by this time they're running out of spacesuits to get around, and everybody who's got there, they're giving them up. So I think there's one piece on here they robbed from something, probably that finger I got. So we're back out to the pad. So we've done our checkout of the building here, we've done all the commanding, we've stacked it and everything, and these, my parking spaces right there. And then we're putting it on a mobile launch platform, and we got this thing underneath that's going to pick all that up and carry it all the way down here. And this is the road that they take it out there, causeway. I saw the picture of the alligator. He was walking across this, so you can get an idea how big that alligator was. He's pretty big. This is like 7, 8 feet deep, and then another 15 feet below that, but it's got some kind of special river rock that from Alabama or Tennessee that's the right size and hardness and round, and it acts like ball bearings. And when you go out there and you watch, they'll make you pull over on the side of the road and it goes by. It's like something out of a Terminator movie. So we'll show you that. So this is the mobile launch platform. Not too impressive. Pretty big guys here in the car. Get an idea of the size. A friend of mine, he went back and forth like 4 times on it, so he's got like 15 miles on the rover. These treads are, there's 8 of these, and this is what, there's 57 of these on each one. This is one I brought in the LCC. It's hollow inside. This one's actually broke. When I cleaned it out to paint it, there was an animal carcass in there of some kind. So, and this is what the treads look like going down the road. Here's where they drive it from. They did a car and driver study comparing it to an F-150. It didn't win gas mileage because it's only like 34 feet to the foot. 34 gallons to the foot. Maybe it's 34 feet. I don't know. It's one of the two. I think it's 34 feet to the gallon. So, and they don't have brakes because it just stops. It's so heavy. So. Mike Leinbach, the launch director, I was up there at his office one day and it was raining outside. And he said, I think we've got the mobile launcher stuck because it was raining a lot. He's like, we don't want to move it because it might be stuck. I don't know how you get that stuck. But that's where they drive it from. This is it carrying the shuttle out. It picks up about 18 million pounds now, and it weighs about 6 million pounds. So just a crawler. So they pick up this. It's an old oil derrick, is what it is. People that make oil derricks, but it's fun. You can see everybody gets out to watch it go by. So it's very, very slow. About 1 mile an hour full. If it's loaded, and this is for Artemis, and it takes 5 hours to get out there. So in the car and driver, it didn't do very good on passengers. 6 passengers, 18,000 pounds, that's a little more than a half ton. And this, you just walk beside it, that's about how fast it goes. And it can't not be level, so it's got an auto leveling system to it. These are the jacks that keep it level. And it's laser guided, so it comes up and picks it up and puts it on some posts out the pad. You can see how steep it gets. Keeps it level, but they bring the whole vehicle out there, and then when it gets out there, it moves out of the way. So here it was, and these are the posts that sit down on, and then there's the shuttle. This is the clean room that comes over, and I've been inside that when there's a payload. It's very impressive. You go out there, your payload's all up in the air, and little people are crawling up on top of it, and there's all this gold foil. So that was fun to do. I've gone out and just stood on the top of the pad. I've come across the crew access arm here. So this is them making the pad. This is where the exhaust comes out. This is where all the extra water from the towers, when they flush it on the pad, and all the instrumentation in here. Down in here deep somewhere is a safe room. I think I'll show you that in a minute. There's 2 of these pads. Here it is out sitting on the pad. My mother-in-law was a security guard there, and on was it my 30th birthday, I think? Yeah, my 30th birthday, I get back to my office and there's 2 police officers in there. And I'm getting arrested. So she had me arrested. They didn't quite put handcuffs on me, but yeah, until the gag was up, and I'm like, after a while, I'm like, I didn't do anything. I didn't do it, honestly. Like that raccoon guy in the cage. Like, what was framed? So this is a pretty good shot here where you've got Artemis on one pad, and you've got Falcon 9 on the other pad, so that's pretty impressive. There's 2 of these on each pad, one for liquid oxygen, one for hydrogen. This is all the water, and they dump all this water about 30 seconds on the pad to keep all the sound and suppression down. And the VAB's like, actually I think it's over here somewhere. It's over there where you are, sir. this is, again, the shuttle on the pad. Just to see, there's one reason why I showed this. Oh, here's why. So when they start up, they light the main engines to test them, and they orbit them. So they got about 5 seconds where they're testing out the RS-25 engines, and you can see the top pitching over. Maybe. You can see the top moving. It's called twang. It's about 6 feet, and so the astronauts feel that go forward, and when it goes back, then boom, they punch the solids and it goes. It's a real ride. So let's see what else we got. This is the clean room that butts up to the crew access door. So we'll give you a quick tour around there. I'll get out of the way. I'll kind of explain things as I go. So these are names that the crew writes on there, and it's a very small room. You can only take up a couple of times. That's quite a drop out the back right there. Now we're going to go as if we were coming in. The arrows are pointing to tell the crew, if it's an emergency, go this way, go this way. But this is like 200 feet down right over the edge, and I'll show you that in a second. Am I getting too technical here? No. I'll tell more stories. So this is looking down at the mobile launch platform without anything on it. This is a shuttle one. So these are the SRB holes, and this is the solid rocket holes. And now we're going to go over to where those lines lead to these little baskets. And so if they get out here to these baskets, they can jump in them and zip line down. So it's just kind of like you're in the forest. Never had to use it for that. And this is looking back into the arm going the other way, and this is what it looks like inside there. I think I showed this the other day. But if they're not there, you can go up there and they'll let you poke in and look around. It's really kind of fun to do. So I've done that. And this is what shuttles dream about at night when they're asleep. We wish we were in Star. They're not being used anymore, so they get to sleep a lot. And this is the SR-25 engines, just to kind of give you an idea of how big they are. And I was out there, and I guess I was trying to get in trouble, so I kind of stuck my head up underneath there. So, sorry for my great animation, but it was really spooky because you can like see right up the throat and everything. You don't want to be there on launch day. So. And this is for the shuttle program, Saturn V program. It's the safe room, so they would jump in, they come down the elevator, jump in here, come down the slide, and they would be in this room underneath. First guy to try it, the Teflon coated, he broke his foot, he came down so fast, and they made some corrections there. He still got to be free. This is me in a tunnel. There's actually something in the procedure in the day to go look for snakes in here. But there's a place where they can sit and, probably a few beers or whatever. Maybe some other underwear. So this is Hangar 8E, and it's named Hangar A because it's A, B, C, D, E, F, H, I, J. That's how they just name buildings. So way down the list. This is one of the buildings that I managed. This is one of the control rooms. You can see how many launches we did out of there. Lots and lots of launches. So, this is the Mission Directors Center. I was the MDC title, Mission Directors, Operations Director. So it's a nested acronym. You can look out like that. So I wanted to be the GOD, but the Ground Operations Director didn't really think that. So they upgraded it to 2 platforms. Nice big TV up there. And this is 2 seconds to claim the film. I had to hear it once. All right, so let's go on to Blue Origin. I think I'm doing okay time-wise. So let's go on to Blue Origin. He's got a new heavy lift vehicle. He does his New Glenns out of Texas. So those are the ones you see going up. But this is the real deal here. This is a big rocket along the lines of the Falcon Heavy, which I'll show you in a minute. But he's going, and they're working on recovering this sections too. That's a tough business to learn. But there he is standing out there in case you're right there. That's probably Elon Musk next to him saying, hey, you ought to put some gas in that thing and give it a shot. So this is another program that was out there, the Delta II program, very successful program. They did have some problems though, and we'll talk about that in a second. This is the blockhouse where they went into, and they got 2 pads. There's the rocket. This is their new sideways version rocket. I just thought it'd be better to make it where you can see it. It actually points up and down, but pointy side up, please. So, and this is them loading the solids. And one of these is going to have a problem here in a second. So you can see how big they are now. They're pretty good size. There's 9 of them. 6 light on the ground, and there's 3 airmen. So they throw off the first 6, and then they light the next 3. There was an oil derrick in they launched out of California, and there was an oil derrick, and they were watching, and they see the launch, and hey, there's the solids coming off. It landed within a half mile of there. They're like, oh, whoa. So another time, there's covers that go over these, And the guy was on his way home from work and he saw one out in the flower field and he went out there and picked it up. So it had frisbeed back. I'm like, yeah, I can do something about that. Hangar AE, this is the door in the Mission Director Center. There's supposed to be apostrophe here or someplace. That's probably my fault. So this is the room. Now this is actually where I am over here for that launch. It's coming up right now. This is the GPS 2R1 launch. So we want to watch this?
2, 1, 0. We have ignition and liftoff from Cape Canaveral Air Station of the Air Force Delta II launch vehicle carrying the new GPS 2R satellite. We have had an anomaly. We just had an anomaly of the Delta II launch vehicle from Cape Canaveral Air Station. We need to secure the area. Once again, we had liftoff of Delta II launch vehicle from Cape Canaveral Air Station, and we just had a problem with the vehicle on the pad.
So that's again. We're doing slow motion. She doesn't really know much about engineering, so she has no clue what's going on. Usually there are people in the room. I was sitting like 5 feet away from her, so the oohs and ahs you hear, that's the people in the room with me, and we're going like, oh my goodness. Anyway, one of the solids had a failure in it, and it cracked. And once it starts to crack, the solids have explosives on them, so if they come off, it takes out the rest of the rocket. So that's what we were seeing. So we're going to take you quickly to Mars. We had somebody that was going to be the first person on Mars. Who was that girl? Where'd she go? Come up here. You can come up and get your own. You know how to walk. So this is a selfie of a rover on Mars. We'll try and give all these away. So she's going to be one of our first pilots on Mars, at least if I have to think about it. So very good. So that's it. So it has an arm that sticks out, and then they digitally take the arm away, so it looks like it's all round. It kind of looks like Wally, I think. Wally. A little bit like Wally. So, what the heck? So there's lots of pictures. This has something called an RTG on it, so it doesn't need sunlight. And the camera, it runs around and drills holes and things. I'll have a whole other pitch on that one, but I decided to throw it in since I'm not going to give that pitch. So we're back from Mars. That was a quick trip. Everybody enjoy that? All right, so I'm going to tell you the rocket business is not an easy business. This is Elon, that guy getting started with Falcon 9. So they're supposed to go the other way. Yeah, the other way. Yeah, so here he is looking at his mess. But his goal is to push hard, and if you make mistakes, learn from it and move forward. And so that was what was happening. Now this is, I'm watching TV in my house, and for some reason my refrigerator jumped off the floor and landed back on the floor. And that was because this happened. And this is one that was on the ground, and they have their nice, $200 million payload sitting right here, and they weren't going to pay on the insurance because they didn't lose it in flight. But I guarantee you that it flies. So still having trouble. Now he's got him off the pad. He's got him flying through the air, so he's still got to learn a little bit. So now he's trying to land on a barge. At this point, the payload's already up in the air. Everybody else's rocket goes into the water. So hey, if we land, that's just bonus. So let's try and land. A little crooked. See the thrusters trying to hold on. Help! 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 No! No sound, so I have to make my own boom. Tiny. Everybody go boom. Watch the shockwave through the cloud. So this is called I Still Love You is the name of the barge. I'll show you that later. Yep, I'll show you that later now. So it's called, Of Course I Still Love You. And they paint this a lot. It does land on the X though. You know, X marks the spot. So this is a Falcon 9 Heavy. They basically take a Falcon 9 and glue 3 of them together. And let's watch them come in. That's if it's just one coming in. So that all that yelling you hear is from the launch team. They're all like 25, 28 years old. They're just going nuts. So they're just having a blast. And here's it coming back in. Obviously, you can see this one needs to be repainted a bit, but it's coming back in at Port Canaveral. I hid something there. I can't tell you what that is. They're not allowed to talk about that. So ignore this. This is not the ship you're looking for. So this is what it looks like on the dock. And pretty much every time you go out to Port Canaveral, there'll be one there, and it's all burnt. And they fly them up to 20, 25 times. I think they're. So I'm coming back by Fort Lauderdale on a cruise. And I know this is launching. Of course, we're in Fort Lauderdale, and this is, tide is still like 150 miles away. So this is what. So I kind of knew this was going to happen, but I couldn't wake anybody up at 1 o'clock in the morning. Nobody would get up and watch it. There's like 3 people out there, so that was really cool. So, and if I could have kept watching, I might could have seen it done burn to go back and land on the barge. All right, so we're going to talk about this is the Artemis program. They've launched one unmanned. This is it. So try to end with a bang here. Not literally.
Launch seat can no longer cycle the count. Sound suppressor water now floating under the ML. And here we go.
10.
Hydrogen burn off igniters initiating. 7, 6, 5. 4-stage engine start. 3, 2, 1. Boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis 1. We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
All 4 RS-25 engines on the core stage and 2 solid rocket boosters now propelling the vehicle at 128 miles per hour. Having good control on the roll from teams in Mission Control Houston. All good calls so far. Now 30 seconds into the flight of Artemis 1.
Okay, you'll have to come see me if you want to see all these pictures, because they're all like 10, 20 minutes long. I can't do that. So one more I'm going to show you has nothing to do with Canadian Space Center, but it's just cool. It's Boca Chica. Starship head.
On the left-hand
We're now down to 3 Raptor engines. We can see those chopsticks.
So you hear the same people yelling, or the same people controlling, they just go nuts for anything. We weren't allowed to say anything until we had spacecraft separation, because then the customer was happy. They're just like, hey, we launched. But I wanted to show that when they've done this 3 or 4 times. They were supposed to launch today, but I think they've delayed. Did anybody confirm that? All right, so I got time for some questions. First thing is, what is the hottest planet in the solar system? Where's my... Okay, I haven't heard a lot of Venus, so we're going to give it out to the youngest Venus answerer. So very good. So this is what else we got. Let's see. Which planets have ring? And you have to give off. Keep going. Jupiter. You can't get another one. Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune. Who won? Let's go over to this side. This is not fair. I'm sorry, but. She's cuter than I am, so. Did you get your,
Here, give it to your.
come get it, sorry, he's cuter. No, sorry, my bad. He's younger, he needs motivation. All right, see what else we got here. Okay, how long would you live on Mars without a spacesuit? I haven't heard close yet. This is a picture of Mars. It's got words on the back, if you can read.
Most of us won't get to Mars.
You can't answer too many questions. Did anybody say 2 minutes?
2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes back there in the back. Sorry, I'll catch you later. Come see me. Yeah, it's 1/100th of the atmosphere. Temperatures, 70 to minus 250. No air, carbon dioxide, bad to breathe. So, did I mess that up? So this was just some stuff that was going to play in the background while I was up here talking. Maybe I'll figure out how to do this. Come on. I guess not. Nice try. Yeah, there we go. So this is called moon rising, Earth rising. What? I measured it one time. I went up there and tried it. No, it takes about 2 minutes to suffocate is what you're going to do. You're not going to freeze to death. The atmospheric pressure is very low, so your blood's going to start to boil. You want me to keep going on this? Your eyes are going to bulge. Well, you will because you're basically running out of air is what you're doing. You're suffocating. So, but you're not going to laugh. Okay, I'm going to give it to the person who can hold their breath for 3 minutes. Who can hold their breath for 3 minutes? So, all right. Well, there's one other thing I want to do right quick. I got a couple more to get out, but I'm going to answer sticker questions. This is he deserves that picture, right? Because he's been helping me. So we got 2 more shows. So we got another show coming up. It's not in the thing. I don't know what's going on there, but there's something about 2 day 11s or something. I don't know. We're going over the. I don't know. So it's messed up in there, but this is what it is. So I got a couple more stickers, and I got like 2 or 3 minutes to answer questions. So let's see if we can get a couple more questions for stick. I knew I couldn't walk. All right, here you just take some of these and start handing them out. You go over there, and I'll catch them over here. All right. What's your question? What is my favorite planet? That's the question. Okay, come on, I'll take Earth right now. Maybe not, but it's the closest one I can live to. Coolest one is Pluto, because I feel sorry for it, and it's named after a dog. No, I have not met her, but I have done her math. So in calculus, that was like one of my calculus problems, fluid mechanics problems, is to figure out how to get on orbit and stuff. And I'm like, oh gosh, I'm gonna die here. It is not easy math, and it is much harder by hand. I'm gonna get one more over here, and then I'm gonna run over there. So, here.
How heavy was the shuttle being carried by the Boeing jet, and did they remove anything to lighten it?
So they did not remove anything. I can't tell you about the whole weight of it. I'm going to guess around 6 million pounds, because when you start looking at the amount of thrust coming out of the vehicles, booster 6 million, 6 million, 3 million, 3 million, main engines another 1.5 million. So it's got to be less than that, because it's got all that. So maybe about 4 million pounds, quite heavy. But it's obviously heavier with a 25,000 pound payload in the back too, which did not have that. So they did cut some cables out. I told somebody they wanted some cables for inspection or something, and the guy they went in with a work order. He said, I'm not cutting them. Because then he ended up cutting them out. So one here, and then I'm going to go over. Who's over here?
Thank you. So the vehicle assembly building is very impressive. Did any other space programs do anything like that?
So there was one called the VIB, and I actually pointed it out in the slot there. It was for Lockheed Martin's Titan, and they launched out of, they stacked the Titan in there, and they took it down piece by piece and removed it. Well, this one's a little different. A lot of them will bring, like Elon brings his vehicles out and stands them up on the pad, so he's got another processing building, because it turns out it's much cheaper to process it laying down than it is standing up, just because.
I'm from Earth Creek. I'm from Earth Creek.
Well, what is the most important space shuttle we lost? Well, we lost Columbia and we lost Challenger. I don't really want to do the Challenger story because it's really not a great story all the way through, but Columbia has a redeeming characteristic at the end. Let me run over here and get a couple since you've already got a picture. We can always get together, eat dinner and lunch. I'm around here for the rest of the week, so I'll catch you. So I can't go anywhere. So.
When do you think we're going to get shuttles in orbit without the use of rockets?
When are we going to get shuttles in orbit, spacecraft in orbit without using a rocket? They have some other things that are basically throw them up. There's different methods, but we basically have to spend some kind of amount of energy, and the gravity on this planet is actually quite hard to get something off the planet, and there's atmosphere is really thick, so it's a difficult thing. That's why Elon's working on that super heavy to be able to pick stuff up, but it's going to take some kind of energy to push it up. One more.
With all the rockets going down launching satellite communications, how crowded does it get up there?
So how crowded is space? So I'm gonna grab a rock and I'm gonna go outside and I'm gonna throw it off the side, and what are the chances of me hitting a fish? Pretty low, a lot of fish. Now, that being said, they have had collisions on orbit. The orbiter has had a paint chip hit the window, take a chunk out of the window. Space station has had some impacts as well. So it's not like it doesn't happen. When I worked for a spooky agency, they watched all that stuff, and we were watching quite a bit of stuff. And they have something called a COLA, collision avoidance maneuver. So if they're launching and there's something within a manned mission, they won't fly until it's gone by. There's tons of satellites, and yes, it's getting more crowded. So there's actually a YouTube page you can go. Last question right here. So do they do any launches at Vandenberg? At Kennedy Space Center, they launch due east, is that right? East. And that's because they're trying to get to an orbit that goes around with the equator. It does kind of wobble back and forth. If you want to go polar, you want to go from someplace north, higher, so you don't lose energy from the launch. And they launch out of Vandenberg, actually a little retrograde to hitting that oil rig. But they launch quite a bit of military payloads out of there because those are mainly polar. What you want is cell phone and television, that launches out of here. So thank you very much for coming. Try and catch this show, and just bring some more people next time.